In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know in order to get started with HardOps and Boxcutter. Let's go. So if you're using older versions of Blender and you have Boxcutter and HardOps installed and it's working fine, don't touch it. Okay, do not install new versions over there, right? Just leave it alone. Updates are for new Blender versions. So when you download the latest version of HardOps and Boxcutter, make sure that you're going to also get the latest version of Blender, okay? And install it there. Now, it's possibility that the latest version is going to work with previous versions of Blender. But again, like I said, if you have a stable version of Blender with stable add-ons, don't touch it because you're going to fuck it up. Second thing is I'm going to teach you how to install these add-ons, right? Now, in Blender 4.2 and above, unless they change what they fucked up, and by them I mean the Blender devs, you're going to be installing add-ons a little bit differently, okay? You're going to go to Edit and Preferences, then go to Extensions, which is the old add-ons tab, and then you need to click on this tiny little fucking forgotten arrow that's, you know, for all these paid add-ons that made Blender usable. And then you click on this and install from disk. So download the zip files from, you know, Blender Market or Gumroad, whatever, and then install here from disk, right? Once you do that, you're going to see that HardOps and Boxcutter are going to be added to your list. Then simply go here, Save Preferences, and you're good to go. And if you don't see that window, simply go here and uncheck this bullshit, because you want to have a control over what you're saving in your preferences, right? You don't want it to be auto-saved. You want to have control over what you're saving, right? Good. Now close that and you're good to go. So now when you're installing HardOps and Boxcutter, install them in that order. First install HardOps and then Boxcutter. Why? So now when you press Alt-W to launch them, right, or flip between them, you want to have Boxcutter being enabled first. Because Boxcutter main menu, which is a D menu, will not work unless Boxcutter is enabled. And HardOps Q menu is going to work anytime. So I can press Q for HardOps, even though my Boxcutter is enabled, but I can press D menu only if my Boxcutter is enabled. Do you see my point? So you're saving yourself additional click, okay? Now let's set them up, okay? Really simple. Enable Boxcutter, so Alt-W, go here, go to Input, and enable this if you want to. What it will do, it will basically enable you to cancel an end-gun cut with a right mouse button. So let me show you. It's a bit ahead, but let me show you. So I have a cube here, right? And I'm going to have an end-gun cut. And I'm going to try to draw something in. You know, I want to redraw it because I made a mistake. I just RMB and I'm done. Right? It's quicker. So I prefer it. If you don't like it, don't enable it. But that's all I'm enabling in Boxcutter. Okay? Now HardOps is a bit different. Now HardOps doesn't require you to be in HardOps mode in order to change any settings. You go here and you can see all the settings. First here, when you click this, you're going to see HardOps version. This will tell you whether you're up to date or not. And here you got all the important links, including Discord for HardOps and also Josh's and my YouTube channel, our website, etc. And also you can ask questions on the help in our public Discord, to which I'm going to link on the bottom of the screen. In terms of settings, you want to go here and you want to change three things. You want to turn them on. You want to turn on this option. The auto T panel, auto end panel are going to slide both panel outside when you're going to be using, right? So let me just enable end panel here. And I'm going to add a cube, right? Watch what happens when I'm going to add a bevel with HardOps. All these panels going to collapse, watch. To make space for the menu on the bottom. Do you see what I mean? Second thing is going to be Boxcutter notification. So let's say I'm going to be cutting this cube with a box. You can see in the bottom I have notification. They tell me what's happening with my cut. That's really important, okay? And the third one here is going to be this one. So Q menu prefixes. So you're going to have prefixes in the Q menu, okay? And that's about it. That's all the settings. So once you do that, simply go here to Edit, Preferences, Save Preferences, right? And then you can also go here and save startup file, okay? And you're good to go. Now everything is set. So now let's talk about the basic menus. Now for Boxcutter, like I told you, you need to be in Boxcutter mode in order to see Boxcutter menus. So Alt-W to enable Boxcutter, which is in the bottom. Press D, that's a main menu for Boxcutter, and you're going to be adjusting all the settings in here. In fact, a lot of these settings are here on this top bar. That's a Boxcutter bar, right? But you're going to be mostly in here. And then there's another menu, which is Shift V, and we're going to be talking about this menu in a minute. that allows you to align your cutters to specific, edges or whatever. So these menus are essential for Boxcutter. Now for HardOps, like I told you again, you don't have to be in HardOps mode in order to see HardOps menus. So Q is going to be a contextual menu. That's the main menu for HardOps, and it's a contextual menu, meaning it's going to be changing depending on what you have selected or in what mode you are. So for example, with the cube selected, I can see these options, right? With the cube in edit mode, I'm going to be seeing these options. And with nothing in the scene, I'm going to be seeing these options. Another menu is going to be Control tilde menu, and tilde is a key left to your one key, so underneath the escape key, depending on the keyboard. So when I'm going to have a cube here, and I'm going to select it and go to Control tilde, now I go to sharpening. This is actually the only time I'm using this menu right now. You can choose what kind of parameters you want to add to an edge when you're going to be using the sharpen command. Okay, so if I'm going to click on sharpen right now, I'm going to be adding crease, bevel weight, and sharp to every single edge that's above 30 degrees. Right, so to all these edges, I would be adding these parameters to all these edges because they are 90 degrees, which is above 30. And I would be adding all three of them. So if you want to change it to something else, something specific you want, you do it in here. You can also check the modifiers you're running, but honestly, I prefer to run this tab since you can actually move modifiers if you need to. You can move modifiers here as well, but you need to click on arrows. And there's one more menu you may want to know of. It's the Alt-M menu, which allows you to add materials. And you simply click on Add Matte to add a regular matte. You can see a preview in here. You can hold Shift to add glass, and also hold Alt to add emissive. So if you go to render view, you're going to be able to see that, okay? That's emissive, that's glass, right? It's going to take a bit of time, and that's regular matte, okay? Another thing that you should know is that if you hover over one of these options here in Q menu, you can see they're going to have additional tooltip telling you what kind of options you can use with this key when you're going to press Shift, Alt, Control, etc. Okay? There's a lot of options in HardOps. You're not going to be using all of them, and you don't have to know them right now. Don't worry about it. Okay? If you don't know what it is, just forget about it. You could grab our HardOps course, which is an ultimate guide to HardOps and Boxcutter, because this course will teach you everything literally you need to know about all these tools. Every single tool is broken down. It's like 50 or 60 videos on each of these tools. Plus, you have a practical section where we model a ship, sci-fi ship, okay? You can also go here and check our YouTube videos. I have an entire playlist with HardOps and Boxcutter videos. I think I have 150, 180 videos. I know it's a lot. So if you can't learn from these videos, you should be fired, okay? So now anyway, what I want to show you is how to use both of these add-ons, together. Now, a question I get a lot is which add-on should I get first, Boxcutter or HardOps? Get both. That's why they're bundled. This add-on is easily worth $200, if not more. Okay, easily. Because when you compute the amount of time you're going to save in a year, it's in days or weeks. Okay. That's how good it is. That's how many operations it kind of simplifies into one click. You would need to spend, like when I'm modeling vanilla Blender, usually it's about 3 times longer than with HardOps and Boxcutter, maybe even more. That's how slow vanilla is, okay? So time is something you can't buy, so remember that. It's really important. So get both because they just intertwined. There's a lot of tools in HardOps that I use specifically for Boxcutter, and I'm going to show you, right? So now when you're going to open a Q menu, options are going to be listed from the most important ones, the most commonly used ones in a specific situation. So in this situation, I'll be using bevel, right? So I'm going to add a bevel. You can collapse this menu because it's confusing, just press H. You can see all you need to know in the bottom, and you can scroll your mouse to add more segments and adjust your bevel size and just click. Then 2 things will happen, right? Bevel is going to be added to your mesh, and in 4.1 and 4.2, HardOps is going to add Auto Smooth, and it's going to be its own in-house version of Auto Smooth, and you can see that because there are 2 exclamation marks in the beginning here. Another thing that HardOps does in the background is organizing your modifiers here, so it's going to automatically move modifiers to a proper location. So the stack of modifiers, you don't have to worry about it like you do in vanilla Blender. So if you go to Control tilde menu and you go to, I think, workflow, there you go. You can see auto sort modifiers is turned on. and you can switch them off and on depending on what you want. You can also add additional ones. Really convenient. Leave it at default. You don't have to worry about it. Modifier is going to be sorted out automatically. So for example, if I'm going to cut it now with a boolean, so I'm going to go to D menu and select this rectangle and make sure my cut is enabled here. Okay, I'm going to click and drag and then release my mouse, pull it down and click or press spacebar to approve it. You see my boolean is going to jump on the top automatically. In addition, Boxcutter is going to create this section here, this collection for cutters automatically. So all the cutters are going to be going there now, right? So I can very easily press Shift 2 to enable them and disable them. So let me just Alt H to unhide them. And you can see I can very easily turn them on and off, okay? And now if I'm going to add a weighted normal modifier, it's going to go on the bottom. See what I mean? So there you go. So you don't have to really worry about the modifier stack order anymore, right? So now let's mirror this, right? So Alt X, that's how you enable mirror. And you mirror from the side you want to mirror from to the side you want to mirror to. So in our case, if I want to mirror on the y-axis, I'm going to choose the yellow axis, right? And mirror from here to the other side. If you want to enable additional options in the mirror, you can press tab, but that's a bit more advanced. So, don't worry about it. This is the basic mirror operations that you need to know of, okay? And again, mirror is going to be sorted automatically and placed in the correct location in this stack here, right? Now, if you want to apply modifiers, you don't have to do it manually. You can use Smart Apply. Now, be careful with Smart Apply in Blender 4.2 or 4.1 and 4.2 and above, because it will apply auto smooth. Right? It's not a big deal, but I'm just telling you it will do that. It will apply all the modifiers except for last bevel and weighted normal. So if I'm going to go here and either alt click on ever scroll or go to operations and Smart Apply, it will apply all the modifiers. Now you can see I'm using beta and this is bugged because my bevel was applied, and that's a problem, right? And I've noticed that if I move the bevel here underneath the mirror, it's going to actually work fine. So if I'm going to go now and Smart Apply, my bevel will not get applied. I'm going to actually talk to Proxy about it because, again, I'm using beta version of Blender, so things are not really synced yet. This is not a released version. And I'm using it kind of ahead to show you guys, the behavior in 4.2 because the way you install add-ons kind of changed. And also there's an auto smooth problem. So, it's a lot of things that have changed. So this is why I'm using that. But again, remember that if you're using a beta version like I do, there may be some things that will not work correctly. And that's expected because, it's not a released version yet, obviously, right? But technically, Smart Apply will apply everything except for the last bevel and weighted normal modifier. So this is a very quick way of making sure that all your modifiers are applied in the correct order, okay? So you don't have to do it manually. Really convenient and very quick, okay? So there you go. Now, let's talk more about cutters because you're going to be working a lot with cutters. So let's just grab a bevel here, weighted normal. So hold Alt and click on sharpen. See how quick this is? And then we're going to be working with cutters. So if I'm going to run a cutter, right, by default, you're going to be entering the cut mode. You can change the cutter mode here manually, but you can also simply press X while you're cutting. So when I'm cutting, I press X. You can see all the options here in the bottom, right? And you can kind of cycle between them. So going in order, you got a cut, you got a slash. This one's going to be intersect. This one's going to be inset boolean. Now this one is interesting because it's really difficult to create this boolean with vanilla tools. But this is really easy here. You can also press T to adjust the solidification. And you're going to get this result. You can press B for bevel. That goes for every bevel. You can rotate them if you want to. So you can press R and Z, for example, and rotate them. You can move them as well. So G, and you can move them. So you have a lot of flexibility while you're drawing the cutter. And then you approve it with the left mouse button or spacebar, okay? Now when you are running a lot of cutters on your mesh, okay? So you're running a lot of cutters here on your mesh. Now when you want to recover a specific cutter, you don't want to press Shift 2. It's a mess, right? What you want to do instead, you want to click on the mesh, go to Q menu and click on Ever Scroll. This will allow you to scroll with your mouse through different cutters on your mesh. And you can click and you can start adjusting it, okay? All right. Now, obviously, you can change cutters to like a circle, for example. Basic circle operation is going to be clicking, dragging, drag in again, and then you can hold shift and scroll your mouse to adjust number of segments. You can see on the bottom right and also here on the top how many segments you have, and press space to approve this. When you're gonna be using N-gon cut, I suggest you go into orthographic mode because it's easier. So press D, go to N-gon, right? Then click on the mesh, start drawing from outside. So click and drag. Then you can drag your N-gon or whatever angle you want. You can also hold Control to release the angle lock. And draw your N-gon like this, and then press space, and you're good to go, right? Now, another thing you should know, when you're gonna be drawing a regular cut, okay, like this, you can actually press K for knife, and you can use it as a knife on your mesh, and you can also run bevels on your knife, which is not possible in vanilla Blender, right? You need to do it manually by beveling vertices, and it's kind of problematic. So press space and you're gonna get the knife cut here like this, okay? Now after using a knife, right? So after using a knife, so let's say, you know, I'm going to extrude manifold and do something like this, and maybe, I don't know, run some kind of a bevel here, whatever, and I wanted to now cut it. I'm gonna go by default into a knife setting. So what you wanna do is you wanna go here and you wanna change from knife to cut, okay? Then you can cut your mesh again and switch to different type of booleans, okay? Hope that makes sense. Now with the Boxcutter, I want to show you one more thing. Remember I showed you the Shift V menu in the beginning, so I want to show you how it works because it's quite important, okay? So when you have, I don't know, let's say a bevel here like this, and this one's gonna be at kind of a weird angle. Now the transformation of this cube is basically on the global axis, so G, Z, X, you know, right? So when you're gonna be using mirror or you're gonna be using Boxcutter, it's gonna be aligned by default to your local orientation. So even, for example, if I rotate this cube, you know, it's still gonna be aligned to local orientation, so to all these outside edges, right? But what if I wanted to align my cut to this edge specifically? See, now that's where the Shift V menu comes in, because you can change here from local to nearest or longest edge, right? And then you're gonna be able to do this, which is really cool, right? So you don't have to worry about perfectly aligning manually your cutters, just simply use that function, okay? So now that's all you need to know about basics of Boxcutter. You honestly don't need to know anything else. If you wanna go deeper, sure, the rabbit hole goes really deep, but that's like 90% of, you know, use cases, okay? Now let me talk to you a bit more about HardOps, because there are a few more things I wanna tell you. First of all, forget the fucking I never go to this rubbish modifier menu, okay? Usually when I'm working with the HardOps modifier because it's quicker. The reason is that all the unnecessary modifiers are removed. In addition to this one, you have modifiers stacked in an order, right? That's logical. So you're gonna be using bevel, solidify, array, and mirror the most of the time, right? Then maybe you're gonna be using lattice, right? And other modifiers that are in here, but mainly you're gonna be using these four, right? And 90% of the time. And also, HardOps introduces its own modifier. So this lattice modifier is not the same as lattice in Blender, okay? It's a different lattice. Way more easier to use, right? So some of these modifiers are altered, just like you've seen with the Auto Smooth, the same thing, okay? So now that's that. You get also mesh tools, which is a lot of options, and operations, which is a lot of options. I'm not gonna be talking about these here, because again, that's more advanced, right? The same as settings, you have some options here too. But these options here on the top, plus, you know, modifiers should cover like, you know, 80% of what you're gonna be needing, you know, in a day-to-day basic operations in Blender. When you're gonna get them more advanced, you can start learning about all these tools, okay? So honestly, that's all you need to know about the basics of HardOps and Boxcutter. This should give you, you know, a really solid foundations to get started. So to sum it up, don't install latest versions of HardOps and Boxcutter on your older Blenders because you're gonna fuck it up. Then make sure you're gonna install HardOps first, right? Keep your HardOps up to date in terms of new Blender versions, that's important. And also remember that code changes in Blender happen quite often, so there could be some bugs and issues which usually are ironed out very quickly, but you know, just be aware of it. So when you're gonna jump into a fresh Blender version, don't expect things to work, you know, perfectly from day one, okay? This is why we're running multiple versions of Blender on our machines. I'm running 3.6, 4.0, 4.1, 4.2. And I'm working mainly in 4.0. I don't even touch this new garbage because I don't like it, okay? So mainly because of the auto smooth rubbish. Because let me show you something else, right? This is the last thing I want to show you. If you're going to, let me just nuke this. If you're going to run a bevel, right? And weighted normals and a cut, and you know, you have auto smooth. When you're going to apply modifiers using Smart Apply in Blender 4.1 and 4.2, what's going to happen is that auto smooth is going to get applied. But in this new auto smooth, right, when you apply it to the mesh, all the edges turn sharp. That's a sharp edge added by Blender, not by HardOps. And you don't really need sharp edges in this case because you have bevel and auto smooth holding them, right? So you can very safely go to edit mode, select all, and clear sharp. So honestly, I don't know why they did that. That's a new behavior of auto smooth and it's completely unnecessary. So that's why I'm telling you that you need to be aware of how these tools work, what are the new changes to Blender and how to adapt, okay? And that's exactly why, again, we are using older versions of Blender because we know exactly how they work and what we expect from them, and they're stable as fuck. Do you know what I mean? So that's how you work with these add-ons, and that goes to any add-ons really. So anyway, this should give you a solid foundations for working with HardOps and Boxcutter. Again, if you have any questions, hop on, you know, one of these channels here. You know, you can jump on HardOps Discord, you can jump on Blender Bros Discord. There's a lot of places when you can get some help. But if you want to really efficiently learn these tools, I really recommend you get the ultimate guide to HardOps and Boxcutter. Basically, you will be saving a fuck ton of time. And again, that's something you can't buy, okay? Thanks for watching. See you next time.